Today, I'm creating a series where I compare good executed character deaths with bad executed character deaths in games. I'll be going back and forth between good and bad examples. This means massive spoilers for Expedition 33, Final Fantasy VII, alongside Ghost of Tsushima, definitely butchered that, The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. You've been warned. Remember, this is only my opinion. If you disagree with me, then that's fine. All I ask is that you keep it civil, and in turn, I'll do the same. Don't take it personally as if I broke into your house then took a shit on your carpet. Okay? Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. A lot of what made Gustav's death so impactful is how unexpected it was. No one counted on the so-called protagonist being killed off, at least not until the end of the game. I figured someone would swoop in and save him at the last minute, or he would be brought back to life and gain a bunch of new badass skills that were previously blocked on his skill tree. Then, at some point, Gustav would clap Lune's cheeks. As Sophie implied, the two of them would make a cute couple during the prologue. I was so excited for that, but then Sandfall, on the other hand, went, "Fuck your expectations!" Then gave Gustav the rated M for mature version of Aerith's death. His death had such an effect on me that I took a few days off from playing the game in order to process everything. Surely, I'm not the only one who was initially pissed off over Gustav dying. As time went on, I accepted his death and realized that it was in fact a necessary and very well executed plot device for Mael to grow as a person. Considering all the crazy shit that happens after his demise, Gustav would have been more or less a background character for the remainder of the game. He really did die at the right moment in a way that made sense for his character, giving his journey a short, albeit definitive, satisfying conclusion. He proved Lune wrong after she called him a coward. Instead, he accepted his impending death and went out like a warrior. More importantly, he sacrificed himself to protect his sister. He most likely knew Renoir was an unbeatable foe, yet he fought anyway for his people, because that's the kind of likable, selfless guy he was, making him an effective leader. All of these likable qualities made his death carry so much weight to the point where it created a massive void within the world of Expedition 33 onwards, causing players to mourn the bastard long after his demise. Gustav does get a proper funeral a bit later on in the game. If his death scene didn't quite make you cry, then his funeral scene most certainly will. The performances and music during both his death and funeral scenes are what really sold it for me. While you hate Renoir for killing Gustav, he's also such a captivating, well-written, tragic villain with a lot of complexity. Once you uncover his motivations, you come to understand why he did what he did. You're like, okay, I mean, you're still a dick, but now I'm kind of sympathetic towards you. You know what I mean? I love those kinds of villains. My only complaint about Gustav's death scene is when he asks Renoir, "Why are you doing this?" He could have given him a hint. I don't know, you say like, "To protect what's mine." If you plan on killing someone, then you might as well give them some context first. Charlie Cox said he felt like a total fraud since he only spent 4 hours voice acting. This is bullshit. Whether it was 4 hours or 40 hours, what truly matters at the end of the day is the effort that you put into your craft. Gustav's screen time was made all the more memorable, largely due to Charlie Cox's incredible vocal performance. So, Charlie, the praise is well deserved. You're an amazing actor. Give yourself a pat on the back. You deserve a lot more credit than you think you do. Then you have Aerith's death in Rebirth. I'll be completely honest, I never played the original. Well, I played it for a couple minutes on my PS3, but aside from that, I didn't play it properly. But I both heard people discuss it in length and saw it with my own two eyes a billion times over. As such, I understand the significance it carries for fans of the original. Sephiroth just appeared out of nowhere and penetrated Aerith from behind. In the original, for players going into the game blindly, it must have felt how I felt about Gustav's death. Once she's dead, that's it. By all accounts, it was a very well executed death scene. In Rebirth, on the other hand, Square took some cues from the MCU. By that, I mean multiverse fucking galore. Square was like, "We killed off Aerith, but it's okay, here's an alternate version of her." Correction, it is in fact actually Prime Aerith's spirit who is helping Cloud during the final phase of this battle. Real sorry about that, eh? But seeing how the multiverse is a prevalent part of the plot, and there is in fact an alternate version of Aerith that was created as a result of Cloud saving her, but she also died at the same time, it's no wonder why people like me are so confused by this shit. The game didn't do a very good job at clearing this up. Either way, Aerith's death was still heavily bastardized. Because of this, her death in Rebirth feels weightless, cheap, and unearned. It screams, we're too scared to kill off Aerith for good. To make matters worse, you don't see her death properly. Instead, some glitch in the Matrix shit happens as a result of Cloud's mental illness. The whole point of death is the finality of it all. Seeing a fan-favorite character die with your own eyes in a brutal fashion is not pretty. But that's the idea, provided it's done correctly. Once you strip those elements away from the death scene, then it loses its potency. This is why Gustav's death scene succeeds where Aerith's failed. If they end up showing Aerith's death properly in Part 3, it still won't have the same impact since you made players wait several years before seeing it. It's very reminiscent of the terrible Negan cliffhanger episode, where fans had to wait half a year before finding out whose head he bashed in. Developers need to stop being scared shitless and start taking some risks for a change. Does this mean all risks end up resulting in something wonderful? No. Look no further than a certain character's death from The Last of Us Part 2. Don't worry, I'll get to that later. Instead of feeling any sadness for Aerith, I had to go on the internet and look up what the fuck it all meant. I figured the Aerith who fought alongside Cloud during the final phase of the Sephiroth fight was a Force ghost. Sorry, gotta correct you there once again, Past Jesse. It was actually her ghost. You were right the first time. It's like I said, all very confusing stuff. The final phase of the fight would have made much more sense narratively if Cloud was aided by Tifa instead. She's been keeping him from completely succumbing to Sephiroth's mind control. Tifa is the anchor that keeps Cloud in place. Do better, Square. Come on. The Last of Us had one of the best openings to a game I've had the pleasure of experiencing. It's hectic, terrifying, and heartbreaking. I'm sure people who played through the game already know what I'm referring to. Sarah's death. It hit first-time players like me right in the gut. Oh. Very unexpected, devastating death. I figured, surely, they wouldn't have the balls to kill off a child. How wrong I was. Naughty Dog had no quarrel with killing kids. Not very many developers would go there. Props to Naughty Dog for going through with it. Everything about the execution was perfect. From Gustavo Santiol Salmonella's musical score to the vocal performances of Troy Baker and Hannah Hayes. Sarah's cries of agony alongside Joel's whimpering made everything feel so real. In the short period of time we spent playing as Sarah, or carrying her to safety, Naughty Dog managed to convey a strong, realistic father and daughter bond. Sarah was an innocent, sweet kid whose death was the first major cruel reminder of how brutal and unrelenting the Last of Us universe truly is. However, without her death, Joel wouldn't have turned into the hardened badass we all know and love, significantly decreasing his odds of survival. Does this make her death any less painful? Absolutely not. A parent doesn't mind dying before their children. It's expected. When the opposite happens, on the other hand, I can't even imagine what it must feel like for a parent to lose their kid, then live the rest of their life knowing that they'll never see them again. Joel 20 years later is a prime example of that. The way he copes with grief is very relatable. Despite only being in the first half hour of the game, Hannah Hayes really went all in. What's even more impressive is that she was only a chillin' at the time. Her death truly is one of the most tragic yet best executed ones in gaming. Fuck that soldier who killed her though. I mean, you go through all that trouble carrying Sarah to safety just for this sack of baboon shit to shoot the poor little girl. It felt like she died in vain. She's not even the last kid who ends up dying in the game. Crazy. The last entry in this video will be a much longer one, because there's a lot to unpack. I haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. Hear me out. While I never played the game, I've still seen plenty of spoilers for Part 2, whether it's from cutscenes or from people who played through Part 2 and didn't like it, then went into depth about specific scenes, including the very topic of conversation, Joel's death. Some people will argue, you just don't like the fact that they killed off Joel. This is a very weak argument. Joel dying in itself isn't the problem. It's how he died that's the issue. Let me explain. Remember in the vastly superior first installment where Joel sniffed out a trap laid out by the hunters due to once being one himself? Hell, it took a huge chunk of the first game for Joel to start trusting Ellie, who was a literal child. You don't survive for over 2 decades in an apocalyptic landscape filled with flesh-craving monsters by being stupid. You do it by being smart and cautious, qualities Joel had in part 1. Tommy also has a lot of experience surviving, largely due to being a former Firefly. Sadly, every ounce of their character development went down the shitter the moment Joel and his brother willingly followed a stranger straight to an unfamiliar location during a blizzard, which is later revealed to be a trap. Apparently, Abby Kahn already knew about Tommy being a Firefly, where he lived, and his connection with Joel. However, she didn't have faces to go along with the names, and no way of knowing if Joel was living with them. That all changed, however, when they found shelter from the blizzard, where Tommy then had the brilliant idea to tell Abby and her crew that he, alongside Joel, live a few hours down the hill. Y'all should come back with us. Restock before you head out. Then, both brothers reveal their fucking names. Why stop there? Give them your credit card number, car keys, and house while you're at it. Abby might have known where Tommy lived, but Tommy and Joel didn't know that. The only logical reason why Joel and Tommy would give out all this personal information is because they both, somehow, simultaneously suffered from a severe stroke, which compromised their ability to use critical thinking. The Joel and Tommy I know would never allow themselves to get trapped like this, and they sure as shit wouldn't just hand out their real names to anybody. If Joel could sniff out the hunter's trap in part 1, then why not the trap Abby laid out for him? It's completely out of character for both of them. After giving their names, this then prompts Abby to shoot Joel in the knee with a shotgun. Why, you might be wondering? Because Joel killed her dad 5 years ago in the first game. A very crucial piece of information she chooses not to share with him. When Joel asks who she is, Abby provides no further context than, guess! Calls him a stupid old man, beats him to death with a golf club, then, as if that wasn't bad enough, after Abby finishes killing Joel, the self-insert of Neil Suckman spits on Joel's corpse. Now, if that isn't the biggest fuck you to a fanbase that I've ever seen, let's backpedal for a moment. How the fuck is Joel supposed to guess? Joel has killed hundreds of people over the years. Her dad was in part 1 for around an astonishing 1 minute before Joel jammed a blade into his throat, and it was justified. Topping it all off, he was wearing scrubs complete with a surgical mask. Context is a thing, you smooth-brained, roided simian. It's just bad writing. This all could have been avoided if Joel and Tommy introduced themselves without giving their real names or how they know each other so well. They could have been like, my name's Ethan and that's my friend Owen. Roll credits. Or better yet, not be stupid enough to get yourself in that situation in the first place. If you're gonna have Abby kill Joel, at least make her plan more thought out. She could have single-handedly infiltrated Jackson County under the guise of a harmless, sweet-natured, charismatic traveler. This would make it easy for her to gain the community's trust. She stays for a while, familiarizing herself with everyone there, including Tommy and, by extension, Joel. She would learn all about Joel's strengths and weaknesses during her stay. Abby keeps in touch with her people via radio while no one else is looking, and in a quiet place where they wouldn't think to look for her, see her, find her, whatever. On one particular day, she would contact her people again, telling them where to go and when. Abby would then convince Joel, who completely trusts her at this point, to go on a supply run with her. Knowing Joel for some time at this point, she understands he wouldn't be stupid enough to follow a bunch of strangers to an isolated, unknown place. This is exactly why Abby has to go with him alone. When Joel has his back turned, she seizes her moment and knocks Joel's ass out when he least expects it. A couple of her people, who she told to be in that particular location, swarm in and drag Joel's unconscious body to a rendezvous point where the rest of her crew are waiting. Boom! Much better executed death. What I find to be funny is Joel saved her life, and she ended up killing him anyway. Funny way to show gratitude. What if someone killed your dad, Jesse? Then I'd want to understand why they did it. As compensation for saving her life, the least Abby could have done is tell Joel who she is, what compelled her to shoot him, and ask why he killed her father in the first place. This would help humanize both her and Joel more in that one scene alone. As things are, it's hard to feel sorry for Abby, or her father, when he was a piece of shit who had no problem non-consensually killing a 14-year-old girl in an attempt that may or may not have resulted in the development of a cure. Okay, Marlene, along with the rest of her people, they didn't give a shit about what Ellie wanted. They didn't ask what she wanted. Marlene's like, oh, this is what she would want. No. How about we let her decide? Doesn't she get a say in the matter? It's her life, for God's sakes. Just because they're a kid doesn't mean that they don't deserve to choose, especially when it involves their own life. The game dedicates over 20 minutes of screen time for her father, whose name is Jerry, by the way. We spent an entire playthrough getting to know Joel by comparison in the first part. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I speak for everyone, though I do think I speak for millions of people who feel the same way I do. We don't give a fuck about Jerry or his juiced up offspring. We wanted a continuation of Joel and Ellie's story. For anyone who tries comparing the deaths of Sarah and Jerry, they're not remotely the same. Sarah was an all-around innocent little girl who was likable. Jerry, on the other hand, was anything but innocent due to the previously mentioned reasons. Here are even more reasons to dislike Jerry and Abby. When discussing performing surgery on Ellie, Marlene said to Jerry, "What if it was Abby?" She brings this point up twice. Jerry couldn't come up with a valid response. No surprises there, because he knows that she's right. He was also against Marlene telling Joel how things would go down. And Marlene responded with, he traveled across the country with her, he has the right to know. The gall for Jerry to ask why. I'm sorry, what? Absolute fucking bellend. I still hate Marlene for what she did, but she did also make some very valid points in this scene. Abby, who was eavesdropping, comes into the room and says, "You're doing the right thing. If it was me, then I'd want you to do the surgery." First off, no, he isn't. Secondly, it's easy to say that when it's not the lives of you or someone you care about that's on the fucking line. Jerry comes off as a very hypocritical, selfish coward. Clearly, this is hereditary. His existence feels like a last-minute addition Naughty Dog made to Part 2's story since they couldn't come up with any other ideas for the narrative. Did Sarah do anything I just described Jerry doing? Yeah, didn't think so. Abby is a very selfish character who had no problem almost slitting a pregnant woman's throat, even after being told the fact that the girl is pregnant. She responded with, "Good." Yes, Ellie killed a pregnant woman too. In her defense, she didn't know until after she had already killed her. Unlike heartless Abby, Ellie was clearly very bothered by this. Abby almost killed Tommy, blinded him in one eye, gave him a bum leg, then almost killed Ellie's girlfriend, Dana, the pregnant one I spoke of earlier. And I'm supposed to root for this bitch? Joel was selfish too. He sacrificed a chance for a cure. I disagree. If anything, what he did is the opposite of selfishness. Think about it. He sacrificed a cure being made for someone he loved as his own daughter. Any parent or parental figure who gives a shred of a shit about their kid would do the same damn thing that Joel did. Here's another argument I've seen in defense of Joel's death. It's realistic for Joel to die since the world of The Last of Us is so harsh and unforgiving. If we're talking about realism, then Joel would have died long before he met Ellie. Ellie herself would have died the first time she snuck out from the safe zone. Seeing how this is a game, we can suspend some disbelief. Joel was a character that I, alongside millions of other gamers, grew incredibly fond of, largely due to his cleverness, fearlessness, ruthlessness, and willingness to kill for those he cared about. He's a deeply scarred character who, despite being a hard ass, still had enough room for compassion. A character with such iconic status deserved a death befitting someone like him. A warrior's death! Such as fighting off a massive horde of infected who are heading towards Jackson County. At some point, he gets bit, realizes he's on the verge of dying, then, in a final heroic act, he blows himself up, taking all the infected with him and saving Jackson County. Kinda like how Rick's death was handled in The Walking Dead, except Joel would die for real. That could have been his ultimate redemption. Naughty Dog not only royally fucked up Joel's death, they also fumbled Part 2's revenge plot. Mangy Mutt didn't even let players decide whether or not they could kill Abby at the end of the game. Abby lives, and Ellie has several of her digits bitten off during their scuffle. Ellie had no problem killing all of Abby's friends. Brutally, might I add. But the one person you couldn't go through with killing is the person who fucked you over the most? The person who is directly responsible for your father figure's death. What in tree-hugging pacifist having fuck is this? If anything, almost killing Tommy and Dana should have strengthened her resolve in terms of killing Abby. I mean, it certainly would do the trick for me. I'd be like, oh, I was gonna kill you before, but now I want you even deader. Anyone who plays a game with a revenge plot is counting on it, letting them see their revenge through. If you don't allow for this, then you failed miserably at crafting an effective revenge plot. By letting players kill the villain who killed off a likable character, you are giving them closure. Yet another reason why Joel's death was poorly handled. The ultimate disrespect dished out towards Joel was forcing gamers to play a large chunk of the game as Abby. That's like someone slicing you open, then pouring a bag of salt over the gaping wound. Here's my final point before I wrap this video up. Prior to Part 2's release, this trailer showed off Joel during a specific scene, trying to sneak up on someone, and then Joel grabs her shoulder, turns her around, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And then he responds with, "You think I'd let you do this on your own? Bitch, please." I was hyped as fuck. My naive ass thought we would get another Joel and Ellie filled adventure.
Nope.
When in actuality, Joel was dead by then. It was that random, vastly inferior Jesse guy in his place. We call that false advertisement, which, last I checked, is illegal. All around, terribly executed death scene for a beloved character who deserved far better. Joel did not deserve any of this shit. Joel received one of the worst character assassinations that I've ever seen. Barely just behind him is Tommy, after being turned into a crippled, one-eyed pirate. If you think that Part 2 is a masterpiece, then all the power to you. You're entitled to think that. Do not allow my criticisms to get in the way of your enjoyment of a specific game. But I also want to say that people are allowed to criticize something, especially when it completely destroys a beloved character's legacy. I know that was an incredibly long entry. I do apologize for that. I didn't want to just say, oh, I hate Abby just because, or I hate Jerry just because. I wanted to make valid points. I feel like it's important to provide in-depth explanations. Alright, that's all for today. Let me know in the comments below some examples of good and bad character deaths you experienced in games you've played. Peace out, bitches! Jimmy's mom's ass is the best. It must be jam 'cause jelly don't shake like that.